distracted when I read.
Don't record, nobody talk to.
6:02 actually, and we have all members here in public station. We have a quorum. So I call this meeting to order. Hello, everyone. Oh, all righty. The first order of business for today is on the agenda, item number 2, and that is consideration of the minutes of December 5th, 2022. Do I have a motion? And Supervisor second. Any comments? Yes.
Yes, it was brought to my attention by Kimberly, our reporting secretary, that the minutes that were sent out were incorrectly numbered. And that instead of there being 17 numbers, there are being 16 numbers, and that I will give you a copy of what you gave me. You accept the minutes as adjusted to the appropriate of the publication.
Okay, sounds good. We will make that adjustment. Resubmit, and can we then have that motion then on the adjusted minutes? We have a second here before any additional conversation? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. That motion passes. Okay, that's going to close item number 2 on the agenda. Opening number 3 on the agenda, which is chair comments on meeting or agenda organization by supervisor staff. And today, just as a reminder, the public comments are split into 2 sections. The first that we're going to talk about, which is going to be item number 4, will be just on the agenda items only. We will have time allocated towards the end of the meeting to have any public comments on any item that within the jurisdiction of judiciary and public safety. Again, we split that so that way we can be focused on our conversation and deliberation for what's on the agenda, and then we use the other part about future agenda items and consideration. One of the topics is just as a reminder, I think it's spoken to all of you or emailed at least, with the holiday season as the full agenda for the special orders. We did not do anything with September. However, this next one, in February, we'll have a section on the agenda for the special orders in February to talk about the consent calendar. And just as a warning for the council, I'm going to solicit your help in that conversation together all of these services. And I think it's really good for our supervisors to know how others do it. I think it helps executive game will also is going to supply some PowerPoint slides that people can also help in that way. So that is coming in February. And then of course the next meeting that we would vote on it would be later in February. If all goes well, we'll have a consent program for the board. Okay, that's it for item number 3. I'm closing item 3 on the agenda. Moving to item number 4, which is public comments on the agenda item. I'm going to start with the gallery here, and then we'll move to Zoom. So any public comments here? Oh, please come forward. Then you could please come to the podium and just let us know who you are and. Yours.
I am Judge Teresa Bazier. I have branch one here in Winnebago County. I'm here today to address the resolution to increase the bail pay to $100 a day. I wanted to let you know that it was unanimously supported by all the judges. It's been about 13 years. I was just looking at the math here since the bailiffs have had any increase. Our Supreme Court really does require that we have two bailiffs, but we have not required that on a continuous basis because the judges can wonder otherwise. And we want to be mindful that we can sometimes without a bailiffs, but certainly on our days when we have intake and fees and stuff, these bailiffs are just imperative. They help the victims, they help the public, they help the organization with support. Financially there, we can help up and keep them rolling with both the conditions with the defendants and take these. They're very vital to what we do, and honestly just could not perform well without them. So asking that with that some consideration increase that we're asking for is up to $100 a day. If there's any questions, I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Okay, any other comments from in person? Do we have any comments from? And we do have one, and that would be, it's Supervisor Rachel Dowling. Supervisor, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Dowling, District 1642 De Pere Street in Menasha. I wanted to talk a little bit about Resolution 151 tonight and share my support for it. If you were at the earlier meeting this morning, I apologize because my speech is the same. All right. Whether we admit it or not, our approach to healthcare relies heavily on the honor system. We have an honor system when we ask people if they're actually taking their medications. We have an honor system once a prescription is written and filled, hoping that the person is taking the correct dosage as prescribed by their doctors. The honor system goes beyond prescribed medications because anything we put into our bodies, including drinks and food, also comes with its own list of reactions. A doctor recently wrote me a prescription for a new medication, and I'd like to share some of the normal expected side effects with you. Liver damage, nausea, headache, fatigue, insomnia, dizziness, depression, and anxiety. However, the medication also came with a list of serious side effects, which include confusion, hallucination, blurred vision, and severe vomiting. Because of the medication had a wide range of side effects, I was asked not to drive for the first 2 weeks after I began taking it. No one from the doctor's office called to check in on me. The pharmacy didn't call to check in on me. I was left to the honor system. It was up to me to be honest about how I was feeling and to take that into consideration. Looking at statistics, we can see that Wisconsin has a drinking problem. 7 out of the 10 drunkest cities in America come from Wisconsin. 4.3% of all Wisconsin residents have a first offense DUI. In fact, the state patrol for Wisconsin reports that about every 3 hours, In Wisconsin, the state patrol reports that about every 3 hours, someone is either injured or killed in an alcohol-related crash. After a little bit of searching, I was able to find the opioid statistics for Wisconsin. I was very shocked to learn that Winnebago County residents were prescribed 3.5 million controlled substances. I was even more shocked to learn that the 3.5 million controlled substances were prescribed over a 3-month period. Cannabis can be used in a wide variety of ways, including oils, creams, edibles, and even to make clothing. While cannabis isn't a miracle drug, it's natural with far more benefits and less side effects than traditional prescription medications. I don't see an outrage over controlled substance abuse, and I don't see an outrage over Wisconsin's long history of drinking problems. How can we as Wisconsin residents be upset with the idea of cannabis when we have residents who aren't following the honor system when it comes to drinking and prescription medications? Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Supervisor Gowan. Any other comments from Zoom? Okay, hearing none, we are going to close item number 4 on the agenda. And we're going to open item number 5, which is communication shared by committee members. Supervisor Ogden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make reference to a Wheeler report email that as a supervisor from Winnebago County, I am on the mailing list, as are all the supervisors. This was a January 6th item in which Michael Schwab, Representative Michael Schwab from Oxford, the article commented on his being an advocate for criminal justice reforms and introduced a program, Bill 6560 creates a program to establish and operate community reentry centers. This is something where a prisoner comes, an individual comes out of prison, and this is a kind of a one-stop shop to help them to readjust to living at home. So I would urge you to make note, really report, January 6th, and you can read the whole article for yourself.
And Wheeler, like WHEELER, Wheeler, like that? I'm not getting the email. I haven't gotten it. I haven't gotten it either. Okay, I'll look it up. Thank you. I'm sorry.
No, well, you have to sign up with it.
You do have to sign up.
When you sign up, as a supervisor. There's among the choices of publications you can choose to receive.
Okay, I must have missed that one.
You know, there's info and you report. Yeah, well, the receipt of it as a supervisor means that it's complimentary, it won't cost you anything. I think you could sign up and you could take a subscription to it. What I would do is consult with the chairman of the board, or maybe vice chairman Chuck Forrest, and make the connection for you, so that you can sign up for that if you want to enroll.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, it's one of the perks of being a supervisor.
Sounds great. Was that it? Anything else? Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, Supervisor Guthrie.
Yes, so the Safe Streets Committee is meeting not this Friday, but the next Friday. And it'll be at noon. And a couple of things that I wanted to bring up at the Safe Streets Committee, and it includes something that was brought up previously at a previous GTS meeting, and that was in regards to taking another look at extended supervision for those that are incarcerated or formerly incarcerated, and taking a look at extended supervision policies. Seeing what we can do, if there's any reform that we can do. I did speak with Judge Scott Holt in regards to this, and that he did have some ideas in regards to that, and specifically in regards to those that have been incarcerated, what they've been doing while incarcerated, were they, part of programs, what were their behaviors like while incarcerated, and seeing what they could do with the form from social worker that is assigned to them on if they do petition for release of this supervision, would they be granted given that information. So there's some tires that I'd like to be picked in regards to taking a look at extended supervision. And I'd like to see what we can do on the county level to take a look at a resolution that the State Streets Committee can universally get behind and enforce. And then have it be likely brought back to Judiciary Public Safety. It all depends on the nature and the language of the resolution. And speaking with Corporation Council to see which committee would be the best to be put to it, likely will be this committee sometime in the next forthcoming months. And the other thing too is one of the things I wanted to bring up there at that committee is to talk a little bit about community service too. And specifically in regards to the day-by-day warming shelter. I know that they've run into some issues, not just simply regarding volunteers, but also trained staff that have been trained in regards to emergency shelter training. And to see if those that are have this condition of community service, if they can include emergency shelter training as part of that, as a way to mitigate any future problems for the day-by-day warming shelter, as well as also bring a connection to the community for those that are given this condition of community service. So that's going to be at Safe Streets, not this Friday, but the next Friday. And, see it in there. That's at the Winnebago County Courthouse, typically on the second floor. I think it's branch 2. Okay. 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 All right. Is that the 20th? 20th. Yeah.
And that's why I asked, such a way of conversing. Further communicate.
Yeah, and I recommend everyone to go to State Street. Take a look at efficiencies and things that we can improve on, and so it's a good discussion group.
No. Anything else from against the
One thing, if I'm not mistaken, today is the sheriff, correct me on the verbal, is police officer or National Law Enforcement Appreciation. Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. I recognize some are very quick to point out that in the police department. I'm grateful for today and the post that they made on Facebook. Very often some of our things that we are overlooked. So thank you very much to the sheriff's department and all law enforcement.
Thank you very much, John. We're going to close then item number 5 on the agenda and move to item 6, which is a discussion, process of tracking and reporting per diem payments and approval of excess payments for county board supervisors. And this is going to be facilitated or discussed with county clerk's office. And again, this as a reminder of what this discussion is. This was born out of the conversation we had several months ago now, where we weren't getting good information on excess payments. So this discussion is not about looking at someone and saying, hey, this person has this or that. It's not the purpose. The purpose is to figure out a way where we can communicate things up front, so we all know what's going on, versus getting a postmortem that's 6, 12 months old, where as before we have no action. And so it's all about making things a little more, streamlined and efficient. So with that, did you want to just, come up? And you handed out, did everyone get this? You could just, I know you kind of spoke to it, you could just walk us through this and anything else that is supply on that.
Okay, the list that I gave you tonight is from the last 5 years of it. And again, it's not to pinpoint somebody, what I wanted to show is just the numbers that supervisors are not going over by that much. Now, I'm not sure if the board would like to see this report every month, like after you turn in your per diems, we track them. And then if you want to see every month, so you would know where you're at. Yes, I'm looking to you for what you.
Right.
I did look up one of the statutes and, it's in counties where the population is 45,000 or more to 30 days for services on committees, except that the board may, by 2/3 vote of the members present, increase the number of days for which compensation matters. Okay, and a year and fix the compensation for each day. So that's an option for the board as well.
So we as a committee, this is discussion. I guess the first question I have is, we feel like we want to have a recommendation. The committee will come forward with a recommendation to the board on how we communicate this in the process in which we do. And so, if we feel like there's value in doing something like that, of course, we wouldn't act against that right now.
But before we get into the nitty-gritty of this, could I make reference to page 2 on the PowerPoint? And in the second paragraph on the second line, the report is due no later than the first Sunday of the third month. However, look at the ordinance. The ordinance says it's the first Monday of the next month. The ordinance it was revised in November of 2018. So, for claims for expenses for per diem reimbursement not submitted to the office of the town board on the first Monday of each month shall not be processed for payment in that month. And the PowerPoint Sunday.
We also in our office, we meet them by the 6th of the month to be able to process them for that month. Now, I guess I can honestly say we have accepted late ones too.
Well, I know that the ordinance is in revision, and so this issue is probably in flux. So I don't know how it will impact our discussion of this at this particular time.
Wonderful. Can I hold this for 1 second? Permission council.
Yes, actually, we have met with the county clerk and the county board chair to review a number of the ordinances, and one of them is 1.12, which talks about the diem and mileage expenses. As I had said earlier, this is a huge process, and we are going to have to go to the board for any cleanup. But one thing that I think is really telling is when you go to the Wisconsin statute, which responsible, and that's 5913. But if you look at section, it specifically talks about accepted providers, committee members shall receive such compensation for their services if the board allows, not exceeding the per diem mileage allowed to members of the board, and the committee members shall receive such compensation, mileage and reimbursement for other expenses as the board allows for their attendance during two particular meetings, which the board directs them to attend. That is right in the statute. So, query, does that suggest that if there is a supervisor who is attending a meeting not pursuant to his obligation as a committee member or interest, that would suggest to me that they are not entitled to payment. Because that's right out of the statute. But, and we had talked about that during our meeting. So we are in the middle of cleaning up and supervisorizing reference.
And where does NACO and WCA fit? Is that, what category is that? Is that a non-category then, or is that close enough with our obligation?
It's an interpretation, that's a really good interpretation. But that is not been decided. Although I gather past practice has been that whoever submits payment for NICO gets reimbursed. Is that right?
It is a stupid question, but I believe it's law. I looked at it.
But I can tell you, looking at, basically the history that's underneath the statute, and just quickly looking at it. Again, talked about 59, or the 55 of the payment of additional mileage. And in these cases, it doesn't specifically.
Questions, we don't want to be named for something that happening or not? Are your supervisors doing the thing that not coming to you? That happen a lot?
A lot.
I mean, that would be WCA or NACO.
Well, and it's not only that, it would also be, let's say there is a supervisor who is not a judiciary.
But legislative authority. They could right now.
Well, yeah, which the board directs them to attend. Yes.
Is that something that? Your, unless it's your resolution. Or your community, or effectively.
That's why, again, in this middle of the pre-codification, we are in the first phase, we are going to be sending it back, to Unicode to have this. This is not going to happen again, as we talked about it. It's a long process. But again, when I was looking at the statute, that language just jumped out at me. And Julie told me that, again, there's not a lot of people who go over 30 days. Okay, and that's the limit right now.
That's the limit.
And that's why I wanted to be somewhat careful with this conversation. But that wasn't the purpose, just so we're all understanding. The purpose of this item on the agenda was communication, not the allowance of. Sure.
And when I saw this, we had said that the judiciary would take up this matter sometime later.
Supervisor Isaac,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a solution to the problem.
let's hear it.
Excess days are submitted to the county board for approval. Just have the county board not approve it. And then there'll be no, excess days submitted. People will catch on to that real quick.
I like that.
And the problem. Remember when it comes to the board the next time. I mean, I've been here for, eight boards. And, every time one of these has come to the board, it's been unanimously approved without question. Since there are questions, and it seems that there are several individuals who take advantage of these, get cut off really quick. Just don't approve it.
I think I know where you're coming from. Normally, the presentation that you guys have given in the public pack, or the judiciary pack, normally that is presented to the board, organizational meetings, and it wasn't, and should have been on this. The supervisors, and it wasn't. So there is a lot of questions as to how the proceedings.
So I have a couple thoughts. The first is, we probably should suggest once, okay, realistically, I know that recertification was supposed to be done like the quarter of the year that have to happen. What is your best guess? On timing? Because I'm going to suggest that the board see this, but if we feel like clarification is going to be within the next 6 or so months, I wouldn't suggest doing this and then I wait to do it all at the time.
We have a deadline of January 16th to submit our first, basically, discussions and changes. We have, right now, we met with the 27 departments. We're still continuing that meeting. And then the time frame goes for city code is 2 months to review what we've provided. And then it continues. Now, the issue is if we come back, so they're looking at October to November for a finalized version. However, if we make changes after a certain period of time, I'm not sure it's going to cost us more money. But again, it's a per sheet, or per sheet change as to how much the cost would be if we make changes after this first phase. It is not going to be as expensive as it is to make changes after the second phase. But best estimate, they are now looking at the fall of 23.
Fall 23. So,
But January 16th is when I've got to make the next
if we say fall 23, we're probably more like
November.
December, January 24.
So there's certain kinds of options.
Right. So, first thought, I want to get questions on, do we feel like it would be a good idea then to have the board see this presentation? If they have it? I think it would be. I think it would be. But I'm open to thought. I think because of this, the whole board hasn't, if I'm wrong, I know. From what you told me, the board, the whole board, this is the first time I asked the board to actually someone seen it. There still are, and then we're kind of questioning on the board to what kind of benefits. Would it be the county clerk's office that would give this presentation? Okay. If you'll need time, revise this. As Supervisor Eisen pointed out, there's something here in 88, of course, as you know, our mileage has gone up, as adjusted, dates here. So we don't have to plan it. Yeah, yeah. Is are you, this is official. So I don't know, maybe the 27th. Couple days. But you know, perhaps we can work with Attorney Egan about something maybe mid-spring. Where we can bring people, yes.
My only caveat is keep it very simple, please. Because I'm looking at all of these items and figures and names, and things are looking more and more complicated than it needs to be. Please, have someone from the, personnel department, I get human resources department, present this to the board. Because they are, that's their specific job. You can't do it. And, that's the way, it should.
That can be figured out. Absolutely. Absolutely, I would agree. The more complexity you add, the more conversation you're gonna have.
Very simple, and like the director of the, human resources.
Sounds good, we'll take that to note and we can discuss the specifics on that. The second item is the communication piece, and one that was brought out. This is compiled on a monthly basis. Is it something that we feel would be beneficial for the broader board on maybe not a monthly basis, but a quarterly basis? And maybe we put together a recommendation as a committee that we vote on, if we do. So we. I also think that, and I know I even had this discussion last year. The assignment a lot of people that now we're rather can we wait? Only in that if it's a good conversation, and I think we should have it. And I think during public comments, I'm gonna ask about committee structure, maybe about that real briefly, about maybe future JPS meetings, we have conversation around that. This would be the time to do it, meaning that this year. It's be almost a year before the next. That's 2 years. That's quick. I can see how we can get eight terms, Paul. So you have 8 terms. This is your 8th term.
2006.
Okay. Yeah. I can see how that goes fast. Yeah. Real quick. Okay. So if I were to bring something forward to the committee, for the basis, you think that's appropriate? Okay. And then the last is how we actually execute it, and that, I feel that work has to happen within the implementation that will be brought up through the, yes.
The board, the JPS, yes.
Will that start at our committee board, or will that go right to the board?
Probably go right to the board, but it's less than okay.
Is that? Yeah, And you know, people come out and, the person would save time, it can be.
Because again, it's not as if it's just for the, it is for the entire home. So it will be, again, going into the planning. It will be.
Yeah. I just can see, I hope we can, like, be careful that we're gonna get this to the board. Blowing up and just, you know, and then we're spending, you know, hours and hours on a certain thing where the committee, we have a flexibility of focusing on some item. So I don't know. Maybe the best approach is let it blow up and then come back to the committees and then we can bring it back and
So I think it would be.
hopefully we'll have it
advisable
done.
I think it would be advisable not to have it blown up. So.
That's a great goal. Yes, the maximum one. Mantra for 23. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, if we don't have any other discussion on item 6, we're going to close item 6 and move to item 7, which is the office update.
Well, yeah. So I saw a number of you already today, but it's good to hear more. Sorry about that. So since I was last year, I think it was a month ago, we didn't really have any significant trials that occurred. But we do have two pretty unique upcoming trials starting in both 2 weeks. One is a case that's charged second degree reckless endangering safety and also a couple of counts of obstructing flying law enforcement. It's a male defendant who is dating a female who ultimately the female becomes HIV positive. Comes to find out that the male has been HIV positive and has become infected for a long period. Get non-compliant with his treatment plan, which made it much more contagious. He initially lied to law enforcement about when he learned of his status, but they eventually found out. Well, it sounds like others as well. So, pretty extraordinary factual situation. Not a straightforward situations because it involves a lot of things that typically really don't become part of prosecutions. So it's going to be a unique one, but clearly very dangerous situation. And a lot of times we talk about result in the potential harm that they could have, but this one really did. So just a tragic situation as well. So that's a multi-day trial starting January 24th. We also have one that has been charged with second degree reckless endangering safety. Also a couple more counts of obstructing or lying about when he has become aware of his own condition. There aren't a lot of criminal charges that fit real well for certain situations, and this is one of those where it's kind of a you sometimes feel like something just should be criminal or should be serious, and you're struggling to figure out where it fits in the statute. Things that are perfectly designed for that. And certain offenses are different. Battery, for example, is very well defined. Something like this, fortunately, I don't think the legislature has ever seen the need to create something that directly addresses the situation. So just kind of bizarre, but serious situation that's upcoming. And that's a Oshkosh case. There is also the case involving the Oshkosh school liaison officer that has been stabbed in school. That is a 3-week trial. This is from the 3 years ago. And so it's been quite a bit of time. Scheduled for 2 weeks. That's supposed to start January 23rd. This was investigated by the Department of Criminal Investigation and Department of Justice. So that when it occurred, and over time since then it has been. That's a pretty significant one, and again, significant exposure of very young defendant. Unique cases and that one especially, what for most of these cases.
Are these individuals incarcerated?
The one involving the school resource officer, yes. I can check on the other one. I don't know that for sure. I can look at that. I'll let you know. But I'm not sure about him. So the one involving the officer, of that individual has been in the jail for quite a while. Do you know about that? 4 years. It's up there though. He's been in the jail for a long time.
He's skewing our average daily population. As far as how long people are in jail. Than what we lose.
And there are a number of things that are kind of non-standard situations that have contributed to that case being adjourned on a number of occasions, but there's some frustration I think, from a lot of people in the States. I don't think it's going to be the way we can. It sounds like it is headed towards trial. So both those situations though are significant ones that kind of just extraordinary situations. A lot of people will put in a lot of time on those. We did have two pretty significant sentencings that had occurred over since the last time I was here. One was a stabbing and also a charge of possession of methamphetamine, a pretty substantial amount, 35 grams. Where personal use amounts are a portion of the gram. So a pretty significant amount, but also stabbing, which was not fatal stabbing or and stabbing is scary. That individual was sentenced to 7 years confinement, 5 years supervision. There was also a case with a number of counts of possession of child pornography. That there's a 9-year confinement, 15-year supervision sentence that was imposed there. That was actually consecutive to another sentence where the individual that was both supervision leading up to that, but both, so it's certainly addition to that. So just a very lengthy sentence for child pornography case. Those were both cases. So those were kind of the standouts as far as serious cases going to sentencing lately. Just a little bit of personnel news. Terry Van Ellen is our victim witness coordinator. Not for much longer ago. She's been with the county for 40 years. She is retiring, and that's effective in just under 2 weeks. So we have an internal person that's taking her spot. Kayla Hansen, who's been in our office for 8 approximately, something like that. So that she'll be taking over immediately when Terry Van Ellen is done. That'll create a vacancy for the assistant tremendous rush to fill that. We want to make sure that Kayla can get her feet under her before training somebody.
Is that a county or is that a state?
Those are both county positions. Those are the ones though that get a partial reimbursement. So each year the state sends, it typically is between 40 and 50%, or at least lately it's been between 40 and 50% of the salaries that gets reimbursed. And we don't know that until they tell us how much they're giving. So it's one of those weird situations. Terry's been with us a long time, and this real, she was actually in the office when that unit was started. So this is something we haven't had to think about in a very long time. But we were fortunate to have a very once things kind of settle, it's a good situation.
Or another staffing.
Right. Yeah, these positions, I think, at least in theory, should be easier to get figured out than the attorney positions. But
How does the attorney position going?
we have 2 full-time vacancies yet. I know I've referenced before we had that part-time output position, which has approximately 15 months left. That we really weren't, we weren't anticipating being able to fill that at all. We had filled that. I think I might have talked about that a little bit last time. Where we've been retired essentially for about 2 years of the gym, and we started last week. So, and his 3rd day was today. So we've not totally up to speed yet, and this is a lawyer that's had a family law, so he doesn't have criminal law experience. But I'm working directly with him, so we'll have him. What he's going to be doing primarily is charging cases and trying to resolve them. I don't think we're gonna try to send them to court. Probably from the office, issuing cases, getting them resolved. And if any of those cases end up with the trial, the plan is for two most recent. Our kids will have been around for 6 weeks and maybe 3 or 4 months. For trials for them to do, so that works out. So that was just kind of a windfall that position was filled, and we're getting them up to speed to get some basic stuff. So that was really all I had on my list of things. I think as I mentioned, I do have some input for the marijuana resolution as well. I was going to save that for we're talking about that, so I'll do that now.
No, that sounds good. If you're okay waiting,
Sure. Yes.
any comments or questions? You have about their which I guess they finished it and had a foundation. Voting on,
Yeah. So the budget proposal from the state prosecutor's office included the exact number. I believe it was just short of $1 an hour increase to the starting pay. So that was put in the prosecutor's budget proposal. There is a similar proposal in the federal budget. So we're waiting to see how that goes with the budget. There's some push to have potentially some standalone legislation or activity to address that as well. Not sure what that, not whether it's going to happen. So that proposal's out there. The wage study was done. It was made part of that. So the public affairs office had put in quite a bit on that. So I guess at this point it's a little bit of wait and see unless we can pass the legislature to take it outside. But it does seem and I kind of expressed this before. I think for many years it hasn't been seen that it's a realistic possibility to happen there. But it feels at least realistic. I don't know what's going to happen, but it seems like there's a good chance of something.
have you had conversations with any of our local
Not too much yet. I think that's coming very shortly here.
sounds like a many discussion.
Yeah,
Actually, there was a cap on these.
yeah, I think some of those conversations will happen on the subject in the very near future. It's definitely, it's drawn a lot of attention. I know Supervisor Paul had written something as well that was out there recently, and it's something that I'm glad that people are actually talking about it. I think fairly universal acknowledgement that it's an issue, not just for prosecutors, but also for public defenders, and that creates problems. But problems for our lives right now, for sure.
So what the world needs is more workers. Maybe just any other questions or comments? No? Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we are closing 7 on the agenda and opening item 8, which is consideration and vote of a resolution to increase the fee to attend the higher education workers in the parenting from $10 20 for sports and property is we're going to have you introduce it. Let us know what this is in your words. And then we're going to then bring it for motion for us to actually formally consider. But I want to
mention one thing though.
you sure it can.
Only because I'm not going to claim to be the specialist in family court services, so I brought the manager, Joe,
Please, yes.
to definitely speak on the next two in resolutions.
It could be a team effort.
Yes, because I send the information, I do the collections, but because all the documents.
Okay, no,
That's the guy. I'll sit on the side. What?
And ask for a motion, just so you know. Okay, not, ask for a motion, consider it. Then we'll go through the whole, Robert rules thing, and then we'll have a discussion.
Okay,
Okay?
all right. So I'm Jill Burkhardt, I'm the manager. The other attorney, Tara, and the court's office. So we In my office, and I don't know how familiar with what I do. But we provide mediation and custody evaluation services. So when folks have a dispute about placement in custody, the first step for most families is to mediation to see if we can use it without intervention. Final appointments. So to that end, the statute requires orientation to mediation process, but it doesn't actually say what we are allowed to do. So industry standard is in general, we're going to put it. So it is not just an orientation to mediation, what it is. But it's a class that in our department lasts 2.5 to 3 hours in general. It used to be a little bit longer. We carried it down since COVID. We made some adjustments, but most other counties are about the same. So 3 hours to provide material, development, we touch on AODA issues, domestic violence issues, conflict and systems, how to conflict on children as they're going through the process of divorce and separation, how to long term. We talk about legal issues, what is placement, what is custody, what is the family court asking you as a parent to do, and then when you make decisions and your judgments. And then we talk about what is all, another pipe when they change the office. And then we kind of highlight what happens if mediation fails, which is the second. So the parent education group, in general, really helps out the flow in the family court system by providing these parents sort of a roadmap for what to expect, and also really sort of input things from other children perspective. So the course that we taught or that we teach historically our parents do. So sitting through the class, we give them information to take with them.
Just one second.
Yeah, this is really real.
Oh, okay.
Well, on the resolution, it says on the line 30, increase $10 per parent and $20 per parent.
Correct.
On the explanation document dated December 8th, on the back side, on the first line, the first and second line, it says the expense of the course is not covered by the current fee of $10 per hour. Now, it's the $10 and $20 in the resolution, $10 and $20 per month, or is it $10 and $20
Per parent. $10 per parent to attend the class. It is not a per hour.
Okay, so then this is an error.
So, right, on page 2, right at the top, that would be, and
Okay.
correct.
That
I apologize for that oversight.
And if we approve this, I'm gonna ask that if you have pages, please.
I came to work in the family court system in 2009. The last time this fee was reviewed was at least 2001. I have no recollection of it having been dealt with since I came on board in and Barb Fitzgerald, who's one of the leaders in our office, who was just hired about 2001, says, I sort of remember when Little Parent Group went to the board with the increase on this issue. So it's really been 20 years or more since this fee has been looked at. And we have taken on a lot more responsibility for teaching this class than we've had in the past. From a historical perspective, we used to cover the child support agencies and a lot of things through. They were creating files, they were managing the list. So we can split the expense. Class, they have the benefit of getting getting resources from. So sort of initially agreement, my understanding of this particular dates me. So I can only speak to my direct experience. But since that, since 2009, we've been taking over teaching this class. The child support is not involved. We create the folders, we take them, not take them really expensive and everything. And on top of that, things that we provide to the parents to take with them. It's our time away from the office, away from communication. To provide the parent education thing with great benefit, not just to the parents, but to the larger court system. So in general, we like to keep the in line with where salaries are gone and what expenses have come up. The $10 fee is something that's collected by the treasurer's office at present, and if parents don't want to pay the fee, they don't have to. I understand. We attempt to collect the fee when parents check in. So many of the parents are paying in person. Parents who can't pay in person and who ask for time, we give them invoice and we go to the treasurer's office directly so that they can do the complex. My understanding is that they have never pursued the $10 fee for parents who don't pay because it's not worth it. It's too administratively expensive to go through collections with this. So we have never historically offered a waiver of the fee, knowing that on the back end. There isn't much of a collection effort. I wouldn't anticipate that this would change. $20 is a thing now, and what is in the fee.
So with that, I make a motion to approve the resolution. Increase the fee to attend the parent education program partners from $10 per parent to $20 per parent. We have a second. Any questions or other discussion of the item? I actually have one question and a comment. The question is, I know we have a fund that we manage or we identify that our items that are in collections or owed to us. Is this included in that figure that we talked about during budget?
No, we don't deal with this fee whatsoever. No.
So if it don't come forward,
So parties go to the media or the parents and parents, they get the session whether they have the money or not. You know, so the court system says you bring forward the treasurer's office, I get no notification to the court office that somebody did or did not attend, and it does or did not, I don't have anything to do.
all right, sounds good. And the other thing is, I don't agree that anyone's doing $10 or money, but the one thing is try to watch out that, perhaps we can review this more often. And so it's more of a small incremental. It might be something that would be more beneficial for the board.
Right.
Going forward.
To that end, I've just been in this position for 1 year. Yeah, and I don't know why it wasn't ever reviewed earlier, but when your position of them, I'd be more than happy to review it on a regular basis. I mean, and honestly, it's not any historical information on how the school was established, why was this or that, I mean, there was nothing, both of our offices, it was just, it's kind of a mystery, yeah. I mean, here.
So good. And then, I think you'll also want to make sure that this is changed and to
Yes.
be something that they're,
Yeah.
Okay, with that, we're going to vote. All in favor? One opposed? I stand.
Right.
Please, letter close, we'll do the letter close, item number 8 on the agenda. We'll move to item 9, which is consideration vote resolution establishing a new fee schedule for mediation and custody study fee charged by family court services by setting mediation fees at the existing amount of $150 per parent and increasing the custody study fee to $50 per hour and increasing the upfront and retainer fee payment for the custody study to $525 per parent. Okay.
All right, so, I think for the opinion, my attachments, the statute that says the fees for custody custody evaluations and for mediations. And so in reviewing this, it's pretty clear, under the statute, the first mediation session is free. You do that, if you go beyond one mediation session, the fee is $200 by statute. And then the fee for a custody evaluation is $300 by statute. However, it can be changed if we create a fee schedule. Now, I'm going to go back to 2001, the last time it appears that we were reviewed in my office. And because we are operating under a fee structure that is different than what is in the statute, it tells me at some point the fee structure is created. Zero idea what that fee structure is. I'm probably very lucky that I haven't had anybody question our fees in my office. So I think at this point, we need to just reestablish everything. The mediation fee of $150 is less than $200 that is required by statute. There isn't anything in the statute. $200 per couple, per parent. So it is largely interpreted throughout the state. $150 per parent is one of the more expensive fees. Excuse me, for mediation. I'm going to direct those group of people around the state. There's 6 to 8 offices that participate. And out of those offices and within all our other offices, you know, we are really more expensive. So we are not looking at it, we would simply put it in the fees. Also, that it can easily identify the fees associated with these. Of course, that first session is free. That will continue to be because that is free. We also offer a waiver opportunity for parents, so if they want to apply to be reduced in study fee is at present $400 as a retainer fee, payable upfront, and we bill against rate of $40 per hour. In general, study fees are going to be divided in half between person patients. They're also reviewing and internal business practices. It's $40 per hour. Now, the retainer fee, we don't require that. We give you the retainer fee and we say, we want you to pay it. Most parents do not pay that. And so they wait until the paper study is completed, we do a final billing. We will always receive 100 cases that become much more complex. They're kicking around in the court system a lot longer than they used to before they reach out to us. My files in general are at least full of paperwork on these families. And so when I went back and went through the numbers in my system about what custody that is being, how much charge are they produce, how much charges kind of right, and you know, we have an average amount of time in the study. And so that is how we created the request to raise that retainer fee to the 525. That would represent about 1/2 of the amount of money we put on the city at the rate of 50%. So that's kind of how we can. But again, services are not delayed for any parent. They are there at the end. They get the entire study done. They get their court date. The study is not released physically if they're being unpaid, but they are available to look at the report with their attorney to take notes and to use so that the case can go forward and the court system. So the fee increase is more just a reflection of it's been 20 years since we did this fee. Also not the complexity of cases and $40 an hour. And so again, because we are asking to go and do something different than the statutory mandate is, which is $300 per parent, which I don't think I've done a study of for parent $50 in the last 3 or 4 years easily. So I just got $300 in the so again, we have a fee waiver program for these parents, so any parent who's ordered in for study, the same form, the whole pay stub is very simple. Given some of the study system and parents again take advantage. So even though this is a request to raise the fee, it's no.
Do I have a motion for the you notice that everybody else do this. Custody study fees
Recently, this $50 on them. I think this is what part of the for.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion on this? Everybody
I
all
have
right?
a question. It might be a little naive in, family, court services and, procedures. But my instinct suggests look, that, individuals perhaps involved in this situation, finding themselves in this situation, or perhaps not the best, most able to afford these expenses. Did hear you say there is a fee waiver available. Is that frequently accepted as an option for people?
We provide the fee waiver in the packet of information that goes out to every single parent that is ordered into a custody site. So we make that immediately available to parents. And so if they choose to apply for it, they're going to turn it in right away and we'll go right away before we can.
Could you share with us some background of the individuals that come before you, in this situation? You know, is this really a family child, or you have a situation where, police are involved in trying to, quell a domestic?
There is no,
disturbance?
I mean, there's no,
You
So
know,
I work with the court measure and quite a lot. That's usually where I would start because normally it's requested. So a custody study is never pushed on any party on any case. Normally we've gotten to a point with the GAL and somebody said, we just can't come to an agreement. And there's allegations of possibly abuse sometimes, or, you know, parents talking bad about each other to the child, like, so this is when either attorneys or GAL says, I think we need to get services involved and get a custody study on board. And so when they request it, that's when the court orders it. So it's never something where it's, okay, you have to do this unless you absolutely.
The court doesn't initiate this, it's initiated by the.
A lot of the times somebody requests. A lot of the times somebody says we need an in-depth investigation. Not necessarily, because they don't really get involved with the family counsel or the payout is normally where that recommendation comes from. Or the court will present that option to parties and parties may elect to possibly go to, but that's usually after several steps in the process. Most of the time they agree.
guardian ad litem is required by statute to be appointed whenever there is a dispute. The court doesn't have an option at that point, the GAL is required. A custody evaluation from my department is discretionary. And so that is why, in general, the attorney will request it, or the parents kind of know about it, especially if they've been mediation, because we try to keep them out of that system whenever possible. And we highlight what that process is. It's involved, it's invasive, and it's expensive. And it produces a result that nobody really likes, right? It's like, it's the equivalent of telling a teenager you can't go out and they're sneaking out because they want to go out, right? That's kind of what happens. So there is no, to answer your earlier question, there's no norm on that. We have very wealthy folks who have absolutely no domestic violence, police interventions, hardly any drug or alcohol issues, who they really are close to the community and they just don't see what the replacement plan should be. So those family systems don't have a whole lot of intervention from federal sources. They are probably more the exception than the rule, although we run into folks. And then we have folks who are on the other end of the spectrum who have criminal histories, they have drug and alcohol problems, they have services have been involved with them for allegations of abuse, neglect, maltreatment, there's domestic violence, there are, you know, sex offenders in the homes, there are living in poverty, they are, not holding jobs, they're sometimes in pots. And so they're using the day-by-day warming shelter at times, so they're really every case in between. Far more frequently, by the time our office is being brought in, they're the families are into this far more issues, far more problematic things going on in the system. Okay? Everybody who's already been into the lawyers, the guardians, the judges, and these sometimes even the parties themselves say, okay, we got to bring in others. And that's why the complexity of these cases and the files being so thick, if not more, and that's why those families exist. And so that's the population that we're serving.
I was just going to make a comment too, because I did put it in the practice family law, but I didn't judge. So, I won't be a judge, can't read up to them, even if they were not requesting. I have done. Because there may be enough issues that have come up that I'm concerned that somebody really needs to look at the whole environment. And the guardian ad litem does represent the best interest, but a lot of times the evaluation is a little bit different from the custody study standpoint than it is from the items standpoint about things. Custody study will go out, they visit the home, comment on the condition of the home and whether it's child friendly type of home, there's all kinds of other things that they may look at that is helpful to the court. And those custody studies are very valuable.
And we take that family system approach, or as a guardian ad litem, the more we get. So it's a different perspective, it's a different way of organizing information for the family court to for the judges.
Okay. And thank you for all of this. It certainly was educational for me too. As you said, the process of the custody study is basic. Yeah, so, I mean, like, I'm just kind of curious here. I mean, if you were to actually put a set of fee that would, fully make all of your time and labor into those custody studies solid, I mean, is 545 per parent, is this something that would be accurate, or would it be a lot higher?
It would be a lot higher. It actually becomes for what actually does. We don't bill for every single second that we work on a case. A guardian ad litem, who's an attorney, obviously bills for every 0.6 of an hour, correct? If you remember from your practice. And so every phone call, every piece of paper, every email, everything that comes across your desk, you are, right? We don't do that, right? We bill for face-to-face, we do bill for the writing of the report, which includes a review of the records. When I actually went through this, I gathered that I didn't bill for 14 hours on every case, on average. So, and if we compare this with the guardian ad litem, at present, each jail. Now, it's coming, because and so we're even happy. And so what we're running into, I think, I spoke with the court commissioner just on other matters with this kind of thing, is that parents are not able to afford a guardian ad litem, right? And so guardian, I've seen this now a few times, I'm saying, why don't you have me step back and have the county family court services for this particular family take over, because we're going to be more affordable. And quite frankly, we write 40-page reports on these families. CALs generally don't get reports. So you're providing an invaluable, very big report for the court system. So the fees that we're asking for aren't even reflected.
So,
Really, the only, repercussion about not paying the fee is just if it's my office, we put an assessment on their case per party on what they owe. If they don't pay or make a payment arrangement or payment plan, it goes to judgment. So
so this one will go down.
this one will come to my office, yep, and it will go to judgment. Pursue collection action. If that is worst case scenario. judges don't look at the fees, if it comes back in front of us, I mean, and which they do, Jill will have boxes of files in the same couple. It doesn't stop the process, it never stops, we continue and cases of it.
Right, and that mediation is the next thing,
Right.
Our office works the fee, but we don't, we bill them when we're done, their product is done and then look for it. And it's an agreement with Florida is they go to use after services. We are the only county that doesn't hang up the parents' access to court with fees. Every other county requires prepayment of all fees. So they have to come up with the $700 retainer fee upfront or the $500 retainer fee upfront before they'll even start work on the case.
So I'm just curious, what happens if they don't?
They just don't get service on us. And then every county, so on the custody 17, $1,800 retainer just for the psychologist. Every county gives services differently when it comes to custody evaluation. Some don't offer them because they are discretionary. But when you have a dedicated FCS office, in general, all those offices the service. And yes, there are some that be unfortunate and guardian ad litem involved and mental health professionals involved, and whether they write the report or not write the report, that's variable. The fee is variable. I think the prosecutor charges $2,000 for per parent because they have one own professional and they have. So it might seem like a raise in fee from 40 to 50, from 400 to 525 is substantial, like in the grand scheme of things when you're comparing.
And at any point, the parties can elect. So all of a sudden, we'll get an order with the custody study, Jill will have to come up with this time, and it's.
Yeah, they get their funds returned if the retainer fee is not exceeded. We can only charge for the amount of work we actually do.
Very confident in not knowing about the other things. Really grateful to hear about the concerns and my year before we even started. That there is waivers available and that's everything that actually goes out. That makes me much more comfortable to go through.
Great, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion passes. And if I could just make one suggestion, I would have some information on the other counties in terms of what their charges are. Because I think that helps people understand that in the context of the state, this is what the state. And how that have gone into years. But I think those types of things will really help people understand this.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that was item number 9. Opening item 10. Consideration vote resolution raising Winnebago County bailiff pay to $100 per day and adding the bailiff position as Winnebago County unclassified positions fee schedule.
So again, we are requesting that we raise the bailiff fee to $100 a day. I want to stress that we do use private citizens for this. We don't require deputized bailiffs. Even though it is allowed in the statute, we just don't want to spend that kind of money. And luckily, we've been lucky to find bailiffs to fill in those spots, but it's getting tougher. It's getting hard. So there hasn't been a bailiff increase in their cases 2009. It was passed in resolution in 2008. So back in April of this year, the judges brought it to one of the judges meetings and it was unanimously voted on that they wanted to $100 a day. I think that not getting any type of compensation for the last 13 years would automatically just be like, well, it's probably well deserved. Most of these people who work in our court systems, not like they're former law enforcement, and every so often you get that person who may be retired and is coming and working and acting as a bailiff. They're not armed or deputized or anything like that. And it helps, but sometimes it's just our next door neighbor who recently retired and is looking for a part-time position.
But one of the things with the bailiff position is not always very, and you can't rely on the income, because us in the court system know that at any time our calendars and schedule can change. I've worked for 3 different judges, and there's multiple times in a week that I have to call my bailiff and let them know, I'm sorry, our calendar kind of cleared, or we're only down to 2 hearings, we don't need you to come in this Tuesday. Or the trial that was set for the last year has now settled, and we're not gonna have a trial anymore, which is good financially for the county, but then this person who was relying on that day's income, is no longer gonna get paid. You know, also with full jury trial days, you can be here till 6, 7, 8, 9 p.m. or until that case settles. So the rate of pay slowly decreases the more hours they spend in court in one full day. One of our last jury trials, we had 2 bailiffs here, and I think by the time that they were done, the case was resolved, I think they were getting paid $5 an hour. Because that's how long it took to get the case resolved. So I think the $100 an hour was pretty reasonable compared to the length of time that this has been pending. And nothing happening at least.
$100 per day.
Or day, I'm sorry, $100 per
I want
day.
to make sure.
Yeah, $100. So yes, $100 per day, you know, that's what we're asking you to consider.
I move for the approval of resolution raising the Winnebago County bailiff pay to $100 per day and adding the bailiff position to the Winnebago County unclassified position pay schedule. We have a second. Any questions or comments? Supervisor Hanson.
Grateful that you did this. I am also grateful you did the I'm very surprised that what I saw, that how little some is paying. I saw that, this is not unprecedented, here in Ed County, there's $100 for I'm grateful that you're doing it.
Thank you. And, you know, this is an issue throughout the county. This is something we all, as the courts are talking about after the judges brought it to a judge's meeting. And we just said, hey, what's really going on out there? And there's a part in here that says that we have a position posted for 3 months and not one application. Not one. And maybe it's a misconception with the public about what a bailiff is, that it's no paying or private system, and maybe know nothing about the court system and train people. You know, but they're really liaison between the court and the public, and they work very closely with them, and it's not always easy. So we're grateful for the people who have stuck with us. We need to recruit a few more. I love when we recently hired somebody, but that was from the recruiting of judges, I think specifically Judge Cavalier, you know, somebody she knew. So that's how we end up recruiting almost 100% of our bailiffs. Or we catch wind of somebody retiring from the county, and we know in 6 months maybe they're going to be looking for a job. So we're hoping though this will open it up and actually bring in more applicants, so it's not so difficult.
This is when the sheriff was
I'll be busy with other things. Okay,
we have a history of that, though.
Overthrow last year. And really the judge and.
Yes.
It's really.
Having a supplement with a court assistant or another member of county paid staff, because you need to have 2 for every judge.
Go out with the jury, and then generally come back with working, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if many people know what a bailiff does.
Probably not.
Honestly, up until like I started looking into this, I was going to be really embarrassed by saying, but my own experience really knowing what a bailiff does is back in the 1980s, it was a sitcom. But anyway, that was my extent of knowing what a bailiff was.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't such a big deal, realizing as almost like the amount of work and the importance of that role.
It keeps the flow of that courtroom going, especially on like plea and sentencing days. We stack our cases, so we're not just sitting there with nothing to do, so we're resolving them as quickly as possible. So we could easily have 5 every 15 minutes. And that bailiff is in charge of finding who's there, letting them know if the defendant did or didn't show, or maybe they're gonna run late, so now we have to fill their attorney. You know, in the interim, they're filling out paperwork and guiding people and answering questions. So, you know, we get to learn the court system real quick, and if we didn't have them there, we would be really struggling on this year.
I think this would be perfect for them, regardless of if they're on. But
Yeah.
it's funny that it's moving very well. Thanks. So thank you very much. We have, no, we have.
Okay.
So thank you for. Okay, all in favor? Say aye. Opposed? Aye, carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
That closes item number 10. Item number 11 on the agenda, second page is the following. Is consideration of vote of the third resolution. 151-122-022, authorize the Winnebago County Clerk to publish a notice of referendum regarding the legalization and decriminalization of cannabis in the state of Wisconsin. Before we discuss this, would you be so kind to give us an update on this? Congress and Council does have an update that will be relevant to the conversation.
As some of you may know, this was referred back to legislative and judiciary this morning. The legislative committee took it up, and the matter failed. The 7 ways and 5-7 vote. This afternoon, there was a meeting, an agenda prep meeting as to what was going to be considered for county board for next week, because everybody knows there is a rule that says everything has to be referred and submitted by noon of the Monday preceding the county board meeting. So Chairman Egan indicated that since this was not going to be addressed by judiciary until after the noon deadline, is not going to be placed on the agenda for this coming Tuesday. So it's not going to be on the agenda for this coming Tuesday. But it's still referred back to judiciary.
Thank you. So it's still referred back to us. And since it's referred, and since I think there's nothing happening, I would still like to proceed with this and vote on it. So we're able to get this back to the sponsors and follow the due process of the process of that. So with that, I will make a motion to refer, make a motion to consider vote of the deferred resolution. Second. Do we have a second? All right. As a part as a part of this, I've also asked the superintendent and the sheriff to relay their point of view on these items. So, yes.
Could you explain to us what transpired at the legislative committee that defeated this 5-7?
Yes.
And then we can understand where you're coming from, all of that work that was put into that session is here with us, and then we can go into the expert testimony.
Yes, absolutely. So this was discussed today and considered at legislative. As it was communicated, the resolution did not pass on the 7-5. A couple caveats on that. The chair had directed to the committee members that there would be no changes to the referred resolution. So we were voting solely on what was referred. So there were comments on both sides in terms of pro and against. It's a short conversation. I don't think I can go much longer.
Were there any legislators present from the assembly?
Yes, there was Representative Schwab, Representative Gustafson, and State Senator Fine. They did comment as well on those on that issue. Basically, and please don't get into all the people here that were independent. The nut of it is the legislators are bringing this up to session this year. They will be discussing some level of for medical, probably it's the first step, medical marijuana. I believe it was Senator Fine who mentioned that right now the recommendation is going to be state-ran dispensaries versus privately owned dispensaries, about 12 of them. But that is yet to be worked upon since they are less than a week into their session. There was no estimate on the timing of when something would be going through legislation. But I would expect sometime this year, and of course, the governor has expressed interest in proceeding with legalization.
What was the sense of the committee majority in rejecting having this extra information as an input to a legislative court?
I can answer a little bit to that. One objection was, I think Supervisor Hintz did have an issue in regards to, you know, he had some issues in regards to how either medical or recreational cannabis were taxed. He didn't feel that it should be a revenue generating item. That was just his one thing that he spoke about. And Gustafson spoke about how there's this referendum may not appropriately reflect, you know, what the state legislature is looking for, and compared to what Governor Evers is looking for. And so he wanted to have this be talked about a little bit more beforehand, before the state legislature puts forth something. And so that was one of his reasons. I know that the county executive Damon, his feelings is that that he thinks that non-binding referendums is a policy. That it doesn't necessarily matter what the people on this non-binding referendum is not going to affect law. He supports if we do want to make any changes, and from what I understand, correct me on this, but he does support changing the county code in regards to possession of marijuana, possibly distribution itself, but specifically possession.
And specifically, if I may, specifically reduce the forfeiture that is assessed, the fine that is assessed, looking to reduce that. To be more in line with other counties in the state, which we are significantly higher than other counties. And then one other item I'd add to that, one that I expressed and a few others did as well, was more of a process. The fact that it felt like it was extremely rushed, and this did not start in a committee and go through and have a discussion. And I think there were some concerns that the questions that the question within were actually multiple choice question. I know that Vince also expressed this, that there was concerns that it was a little confusing, and that it's needed a lot of work yet to resolve that question. So we got some good actual data from the referendum.
Well, I'd like to, share with you that, this is, somewhat of a perennial county board issue. This is an issue that was addressed by the previous county board. Or perhaps in my memory, the last of the previous one to that. But nonetheless, this is an issue that has been brought before the county board in the past. It has been rejected, in terms of going forward with the referendum. I would only submit that, the issue that will stand on the merits of the discussion today. However, somewhere in risk politics or the real report, I have tripped over some comment to the effect that in this present assembly that is going to examine this issue, one of the elements of their document accumulation is going to be referendum from the various counties that have expressed opinions on this issue one way or the other. So that it could be very relevant to express an opinion from the individual county to the legislature on what the people feel, whether they think it should be legal for recreation and medical, or medical only, or remain in the legal zone. So that I entered into this referred back situation and to the issue somewhat from the past, not supporting the idea of discussing this issue further, but it appears that what we have to say is relevant to the legislators. And it might not be a bad idea to give our constituents an opportunity to voice their expression, whether it be 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Everybody's a phone. And then I would just like to add, some of the other people at legislative were concerned, and I know that staff could comment on this, that this is too much of a, for lack of a better word salad, and that the way it was written would confuse voters in what would also be, this would pass on the spring ballot, a long-term election. It wouldn't give an accurate picture of the county electorate in the 15 to 20% turnout scenario. And so that was another reason as to why they decided to reject it. Right. And part of the reason why I want to at least have this conversation at a certain point is this is not going forward. And as you said, this comes up all the time. No, it has come up. I know we've talked about that as well, that this is a legal thing. So I think we do need to address it. I think we do need to have discussion around it. I would not be surprised if we saw a resolution come forward on the ordinance side, as well as something else as a county board, to your point. I mean, there are other ways to communicate to the state that we're either supporting or not supporting this. We could have a resolution as a county board that there are other ways that we can go about it. I wish this would have been brought forward a little earlier, so we would have had an opportunity to actually rinse the release a little bit. But that's not the hand that we're dealt. So we're going to look at that. So yeah, it's a very good one.
I'm based on what Mary Ann's, report of the just reiterating something that I did bring up at legislative this morning, is that I really need and want everyone to understand that our new approach is very complimentary for this proposal and very well thought through. I've communicated with Mary Ann, not on this issue, but on other issues. The need is always different for also on another occasion, not necessarily regarding this, but I need to be done with the cost. I did not see the way that this was written to accomplish that. It's not going. It just needs to be done right when it goes forward.
Right, so in that spirit, I would like to invite, Sheriff or District Attorney, everyone to come up and just give us your, insights on this. Because this is something that we as a committee do have to fully understand. And I think getting your perspectives would be really important.
Well, I know some of you were at the earlier meeting where I talked about, I'm not trying to send you in one direction or the other. Bunch of positioning, whether there's, I did want just everyone to understand what the lay of the land is, at least for Winnebago County right now, so you have a sense of what you're asking for and what's already there. And that could be different than some other counties. So we had put out a memorandum in February of last year, essentially saying that we're not prosecuting. The primary reason that we went into doing that was that Delta 8 and Delta 10 THC, which are legal versions, as opposed to Delta 9 THC, which is the illegal one, had been really popping up. They were being sold locally. That was something that we hadn't had to deal with before. About a year prior to that, we'd started talking about it with law enforcement because we had heard that that was going to be done, and talked through realistically how would law enforcement deal with that. Will they see something that visually is not distinguishable, whether it's the legal version or the illegal version? They can't tell from the smell. And even some of the same crime lab isn't able to do the test. So it had really created a problem for law enforcement. We knew once they started to see it more frequently, they might not even know this really. How are they supposed to distinguish what's legal? It created a problem for us to prosecute it. We would have to find someone that would do a test that would tell us, is this the illegal version versus the legal version? And I created the state crime labs where we would send any drugs that were seized, be identified, was not able to do that. We did find a lab in Wisconsin that had the capability to do that. They charge something a little bit over $200 per test. This is the time that we had to ask them to do 2 tests for us. Those were on cases where we had decided that we could justify that cost. If we send things to the state crime lab, then we do want to. It's not like it's factored funded, but we don't pay to that. So we essentially concluded that for personal use cases, we can conduct that cost of treatment right now. For delivery or possession of cases, those are felonies, the realistic exposure are significant. And that's something that we can't undertake. Those are cases where we're charging, we're selling, we're still pursuing. I would say it's something that I think law enforcement all around the county has not prioritized as much as they used to. We had seen marijuana cases even before we brought that up. So it was over the course of about a 4-year period of time leading up to that decision that we made to issue the memo. We were getting about 1/3 of the marijuana possession cases that we were getting years prior. So there had been a decline, and it became more expensive. We said we're just not going to do this absent some sort of special circumstance. We did leave the door open for that. It was something that's so we issued that. We haven't really been seeing those cases coming into our office. And I offer this just to let you know what we're doing here. That's not precisely the approach that every county is taking. Other counties are doing some different things, but that is what we're doing here. I know there have been some concerns too, that Options Lab is the place that we send our UA results for a lot of our programs from 24/7 monitoring program, the SOAR program. So they're being sent urine samples. They are in the process of potentially being certified to, you know, it's not a certification, but being able to test for Delta 8 THC. Delta 10 is a possibility in the future, but so we may have a situation that may distinguish that in the relatively near future.
That's clarification. So they're not charging, but are we making arrests on personal use marijuana?
I don't think that's really happening anymore,
No.
right? And I know, so sheriff's office is not, I don't think I've really seen it from other agencies.
Or Nina or
Not really.
No, okay.
I've seen maybe a couple of them over the last year, but it's a pretty uncommon thing, and usually there's something else.
pretty consistent? Okay.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of the direction that law enforcement generally was heading, and then it really, you know. Yeah, yes, supervisor.
Is this, have an impact on our population in the jail? Is that part of the, reduction, to an average of 216, a month compared to the 310?
We never really, I mean, for the past 5 years or longer, marijuana prosecutions, arrests have really declined. So I don't think what you saw or what we're seeing in the decline in the jail population is due to less or any marijuana arrests.
That would have been my assessment too. I think there were pretty, it was a low number of people that would have been actually in jail for possession type cases. One thing that had come up, I know there's been in the news and some concern about adulterated products. Fentanyl has been showing up in a lot of substances, methamphetamine, heroin, certainly heard about it showing up in marijuana, although I think regionally we've only seen 2 examples of that. So it's not, this is not a common thing, even though it certainly is possible. But I think if we're talking about making decisions based on that, it hasn't been something that common. I think that's really it. So I just wanted to give people some idea of what's going on right now. And that's, it varies from county to county, and it also varies from state to state. I know we have neighboring states. Legal, which does create some complications if people are transporting from one state to another. But similarly, it's complicated when people are going from county to county. Obviously, that too, but that's reality.
You know, I've said it's bizarre that I see 4 or 5 billboards promoting, you know, marijuana. And yeah, it was offensive. I just find that really bizarre. You know. But, yeah, quick question in regards to like those that are on, you know how many revocations there have been because of cannabis possession?
We don't really get direct access to DOC data like that, so I'm not sure whether they would have it, but I definitely. Sometimes even if drug use is illegal, there could be supervision against it. Not drug use, other things as well. There could be contact with a particular individual, for example, which might not be illegal, but somebody could have supervision over the rules that prohibit something. So a change in the law wouldn't necessarily directly change all of that. We have some programs, for example, we've talked about, even if Delta 8 or Delta 10 are legal, should they be allowed for somebody to be in a particular program? In some cases, they don't. So it's not just about what's legal, but it's about what people would define as so legal. So DOC could take that approach as well. But I suspect that will impact some of their rulemaking, which then some situations involve resolving litigation.
Thank you very much. Your thoughts?
Yes. So I provided you with, this was given to the whole board back last time it came up. Different board, the 3 of you were not on the board when this came up before. But this is from a Colorado sheriff, and the experience that his agency has had since the legalization in Colorado. I also talked to the state of Michigan and the experiences that they have had since the legalization there. Really, the comment that I got from the head of the Michigan State Sheriff's Association was, which they never would have, from a law enforcement perspective, which they never would have legalized it. However, with that being said, it appears as though it's inevitable that something will change in marijuana law. So one thing that the Colorado Sheriff made very clear was that we need to, I'm talking about citizens as a whole, stay abreast of the legislation and what it actually says. You will find in here that there was a sequence that occurred with the legalization of medical marijuana, then the legalization of marijuana, and then the legalization of grows. And that grow operations became quite large because they allowed, I'm not a horticulturist, so I'm going to grow, and you're going to grow for the 6 of us. Next thing you know, there are large grow operations, and it is being sold commercially and being actually distributed down in Mexico. That's what they had seen or are seeing in Colorado. So we have to be very aware and cognizant of what is being passed and very involved in what is being passed. Also, there will be an increase in the number of fatal car crashes where marijuana is present. Did it actually cause the crash? And you can read this for yourself, but it is present in the uptick that they have in fatal car crashes. So also an uptick in edibles. We see, I don't know if you're aware, but they come in all kinds of different forms. Gummy bears have THC in them, very popular with kids, obviously. So we'll see an uptick there, and that will be part of the legislation as well. What else is being included in the legalization? As far as us making arrests for simple possession, where we physically arrest somebody and take them to jail, we have not done that for quite some time, a number of years. Unless there is some real extenuating circumstance, and I don't know that happening in the last 2 years.
So we confiscate them, right?
Well, we will issue, we could, and sometimes issue a citation, which you talked about reducing the forfeiture amount, which is fine. But yes, we confiscate it. It's placed into evidence, and I can't say for sure, but I can only assume that much like alcohol, sometimes the officer will destroy it. He will just sometimes instead of issuing a citation for underage alcohol consumption, dispose of the alcohol and or issue a citation, but we dispose of it. So that can happen too. So the decriminalization has already happened without any legislation. That's with every agency within the county. But again, I just caution that we all stay abreast of what is occurring with the legislation. There will be interest groups that come in to try to leverage the legislation. It's big dollar. And so anytime there's money involved, and there's still a federally prohibits there's federal prohibition against it. So there's some banking issues too, where the money cannot be placed in a bank. I don't know the whole legal side of it, but there is that prohibition that exists. So you mentioned something, question about a little bit more. The interest group, when I'm talking about Michigan. On the interest group, I take those now with the constitution. For me, only and I base that based on the Sacramento rule. They made $10 billion in profit for Oxford Company. They paid out $6 billion. A lot of people hurt, a lot of people destroyed with $4 billion in profit. There was no repercussions to the family work farming. So for industry, I really hope they stay out of it. because it was me. Don't think that's appropriate for discussion. But you did mention Michigan. What is the current law for Michigan? Are they recreational only? Are they medical? Excuse me, are they medical only?
Recreational as well. I believe they studied together, recreation and medical health, where in Colorado it was a sequence of events that occurred, with starting with recreational and moving into starting with medical, I'm sorry, moving into.
And both of them haven't gotten to this yet, but you mentioned Michigan is now saying they're regretting kind of what they.
From the law enforcement perspective, because there's associated issues that go with it. So just from their perspective, it was his state. Again, he doesn't represent every, he does represent the sheriff's state. If he was speaking of it. And yeah, it's another thing that impairs us. It's another thing that you know, you can make the argument that it chills people out, and it is a stress reliever. It's there's a number of arguments that can be made for marijuana. Whether or not you buy all the arguments someone makes against it, and we also buy the arguments that are for it. So it's getting educated on the impacts.
Ask if in your experience or other officers that you have currently in the department that may come from other counties where, let's say it's other counties or states where we kind of loosen the penalty. What happens? If we have officers who currently work with who have maybe come from Illinois or Michigan versus a state that has it versus a state that only has it as medicinal legal. Have you seen differences or the data? I guess probably about that. The data, we have medicinal here and medicinal plus recreational here. I can guess that the number of that's incident and overdose is lower and
Yeah, well, I think if you, this is some of that is in the information that's in this packet. In order to get a permit for a prescription for medical marijuana, it kind of made it legal for recreation the way that it was applied in Colorado, when you showed up a trailer and a guy got, you know, much like you can get your ministry degree, got their pharmaceutical degree online and said, okay, yeah, you just out the prescription. So I don't know those comparisons.
Thank you very much. Okay, any additional discussion on this specific resolution? That's yes. This was a resolution that I co-sponsored because I was the supervisor that introduced this 2 years ago. This was essentially almost the referendum itself, the be it resolved part of it was almost direct copy of what I had in my resolution 2 years ago. And this, to go further back, then Supervisor Wojciechowski introduced something similar to this as well. And it was actually just a simple yes or no, do you feel that cannabis should be decriminalized? And the board ultimately, the board decided to have it be multiple choice. And so it then spread out to that, to those 4 choices that we see here. And and the resolution failed, of course. My resolution, it did
it originally, went through the committee process first. So it went to, judicial public safety, and failed there, then it went to legislative and failed there. I'm a very stubborn person, so I brought it to the board anyways, and it failed there by a 2-vote margin. And, and I certainly see, County Executive Damel's point of view in regards to non-binding referendums. He does have a very good point. There's a lot of non-binding referendums. We've had a non-binding referendum, be approved with a lot of very heavy leading language in regards to dark stores, and I think a lot of voters have no idea what it all means, and I don't think it was a very educated vote, honestly. And it never really went anywhere. It didn't have any substance to it. It didn't really affect any policy. So I mean, he does raise a very good point. At the same time, there's certainly a very big gap in discrepancy in what our constituents are looking for versus what is actual policy today, and what our legislators are introducing or proposing. It may not be exactly what our constituents want. So this, in a way, makes it very easy for us to just be like, this is what people want. Let's craft our legislation in the state and possibly the county appropriately. Now, I do also agree with the Executive Daniel's stance in regards to, there is going to be some, because it's going to be on the ballot, it is going to cost some taxpayer dollars. And I agree with him there. So if this does support changing the county code, and that's really that is exactly our purview as supervisors, is to change the county code. And that's something that I plan to be looking at in the next forthcoming months, especially knowing that the state is going to be going forward with some sort of legislation in regards to at least medical cannabis, if not recreational cannabis. So, we have to have our county code to reflect that as well. And you think about the other cities that have also changed the forfeiture part of the city of La Crosse. They for up to 25 grams of cannabis, it's a $1 forfeiture. City of Appleton, it's $50 for the first forfeiture, $100 for the second one, and $150 for the third. And so the counties can do the same thing. We can do very much the same thing as well. And so so this is something that I'll be getting some feedback going forward and what we can do with the county code. So if this referendum fails, we'll be taking a look at the county code anyways. Because like I said, the state's going to be making changes. We're kind of painting ourselves into a corner in the sense that all the states around us are having some sort of cannabis. So it's only time. It's coming. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any other yes?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to give my view on this. I've been seeing it at the legislature. The reason why I haven't included this is not because of the question being posed or people having their voice on the topic. More of the way to the process that it's forward. Basically, non-binding referenda. I looked at it myself. I looked at one. Got on the board and thought about it doesn't really give an accurate picture of how things are being constructed. At the state level, also, it depends on but the other thing I would say is that for this, none of the above criminal, having criminal, medical purposes, I think it's going to take it around we have a lot of transportation. This is not something with the important focus whereas it's out and we can do something that's a little bit more practical and a little bit more it's going to be in a direction
I don't think this is particularly useful right now. But this is oh. So personally, I would vote no on this. But I am looking forward to something you can do in the future, and see, you know, is there something we can do that kind of bring us in line with the rest of our, as opposed to being outlined. I think what Sheriff Mike said is essentially being along this from the legal individual process point of view, not from a legislative point of view. So with that, I think this is a little bit redundant right now. And if the board does want to speak on what it thinks the constituents are best with, you know, I think there's more going to be with this right now. No one is saying no. Budget, one budget, whatever it is to do this.
Thank you very much. Referendum going forward, but it's currently
Thank you. And I know that you and I talked about, I absolutely encourage the discussion for these folks. Okay, so with that, I'm going to, as we're voting, so all in favor of this resolution, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Nay. Nay. Abstain. Okay, we have one abstention.
Okay, so one yes.
One yes, two nays, one abstain. Three nays. I'm sorry, three nays. Three nays, one abstain. Okay. With that, we're going to close item 11 and move to item 12, which is a discussion. I believe this will be more of a focused brief discussion, correct?
very brief.
Okay, perfect. And it's acquiring funds from ARPA, or looking settlement, for 2 dark units for law enforcement. This is
Thank you. The fentanyl crisis, was not really on my radar until sitting on this committee. And I became very alarmed to what the sheriff said and what Cheryl said. There were several catalysts to my, going to be, I'm not going to apologize, I'm going to be very aggressive in going after this. The minimum, I would like 1 unit for the sheriff's department, if this would be the patrol officers and 1 for the jail. At maximum, I would love to see 1 in each municipality, and I don't care if the county pays for that. That's why I don't see where the funds come from, either ARPA or OPM. So, I have alarming statistics from Cheryl. I asked for 2019, 2021. The date of writing from C2. Can't believe what I'm seeing. That was a catalyst in hearing those statistics. The next catalyst was record fentanyl seizures at the southern border. Then almost right after that was announced on the news. Sure, tell me if I'm wrong. Not remembering now that it was out of the county or that is the large fentanyl seizure. So right here, it happened.
Yeah, it was Fond du Lac actually that had the really large fentanyl seizure. Was part of the Lake Winnebago area med unit, which was part of that 4-pound unit. Enough to kill the residents of Fond du Lac County 2 times over. So there was enough fentanyl seizure.
So that hit the news, and then almost within 2 or 3 days, there was the news of a patrol officer in Orlando that was exposed. That led to a question to the sheriff, and not too long ago, one of our MENA officers was here in the parking lot, if I'm understanding correctly. Also needed to be given Narcan. So this is something that, is very much on my radar, and I'm going to go after very aggressively for it. Another thing is that, the units aren't cheap, and if the sheriff doesn't mind, I did not ask him prior, maybe he might want to comment briefly what it is. It's a unit that, is most simplified for point and shoot, at an unknown substance that can detect, drugs. And not only is it beneficial for our officers, but it's beneficial for the
It's called TrueNarc. And, uses spectrum waves. I don't know how it exactly works. I'm not a sure. Yeah, but, you're able to determine what the drug is without unpackaging it. So through packaging, depending upon the packaging, you don't have to expose yourself to it. As was stated, it was a Menasha officer. We had a Narcan twice. He was at an overdose scene. It was processed into the scene, came down here. I believe the person that someone was involved, still in the jail. I don't remember exactly what the reason for him driving down from Menasha started to become overcome on the 41, notified there was be a radio, and he was out, had to be Narcan twice, or he would have died from the exposure. So this gives the ability for our officers and the jail staff to know what substance they're dealing with without having to expose themselves. If you're at the scene where you're give CPR or you have to give Narcan, you don't have to be on a chemical suit and all of the things that would affect you. That's not an option. We have to react immediately. So this gives us the ability to test the drug before we begin that process of bringing it here to place into evidence and tested later.
Does anyone in the state use this?
Yes. Used by our main unit has one. So they have a unit. But it's not readily available to the patrol units that exist worldwide. So if the decision is made to make have 2 units, one for the jail and one for patrol, we would make that available to the entire county, so our patrol supervisor on the call of that. And certainly if it's warranted, or if there's people need for more agencies to have it.
What is the cost? That's another reason why I'm going to be really aggressive. The cost and and this is from the main unit. Some of the main unit passes. The last thing now mentioned.
Yes, Jeremiah Winship.
As of December 16th, outside of question, you can get a 1 year device and warranty for $31,000. I'm going to go after the 5 years. This is $38,500. I have heard, not confirmed, and I have not spoken with yet, but I have heard from other investigations that from in just 1 month, that cost is now going up to $42,000. So I would love to walk in pricing. There are also units that have some availability. I understand either through law enforcement and through the Department of Health. 100 pack is $740. This would be your assistance to test your substance. Of course, Cheryl told me not everybody's going to test it. I understand, but I would love an outlet to them to know that maybe they shouldn't take that. That drug. I want to cover all bases. I even reached out to Mr. Spar, so that there can be education for Fourth Amendment violations. I want everything covered. But again, this is something I really want to aggressively go after.
That's because of or DHY, I really don't know. Outside of the main, is there any other law enforcement in the county?
Other, I'm sure, other main units. So there's There's big units throughout our entire state, Department of Criminal Investigation. I don't know for sure, but I will assume that they have.
The National Police Department has one, they had reached out, so a little over a year ago, I think, they had reached out to us. Getting one, they all did that. They did it. Road back, I reached out to, I don't know if Ashka had the negative one. I was getting some feedback. I think that the, well, this is just from one investigator, but some situations. There were situations where it wasn't able to identify something that they had to go through more traditional means, so there are some limitations on it. But there were a lot of situations where it did serve its purpose and it avoided them having to get someone. The National has one too, and they have not talked to them about exactly what their experience has been. I don't really know if I've seen that posted before this. I'm just not sure. Find that out. Looks like the
Is it? It's not against any rules, is it, anyone on this committee, I have, Jeremiah Richards, I also have, if anyone wants to look at it, Cheryl was very careful. There are no names, nothing, but all of the overdoses and deaths. Outlined on the years of our report. I believe it was just absolutely alarming to me. Anybody want to? Or
We would share a PDF with the committee, with foreign copies.
I'm sorry, I was looking.
I have information on these units and then statistics from Cheryl.
We're talking about the two.
And Cheryl Bremer, the Cohen.
I was absolutely alarmed at the number of substances, the overdose deaths, and potentially what law enforcement is going over.
No names associated.
No, there's no names.
It's all we got.
We're talking about a drug analyzing unit that costs $32,000 each. How are you going to outfit, 100, street, deputies?
It would be, there would just be one, and it would be brought to the scene by the supervisor. So it would only be one unit and one in the jail, because we do have a fair amount of people that come in with contraband, hidden in their body or, yes, during intake.
So
So,
we have that, machine,
sure, but that doesn't tell you what you're dealing with. That just shows like a packaging in the, certain areas. You can use your imagination where they're at. But it doesn't identify what it is. Now we can ask them to remove it, and they may, often they do. Or we have to go to the hospital and it's removed, depending on how far, where it's at, etc. But not knowing what that substance is very dangerous and evident by what has actually happened here right in the park.
so you're looking at one unit of this.
Two, one for the jail, one for patrol.
Okay.
And the funding, I'm hoping. It's my understanding that the opioid settlement funds that we have, this is a perfect opportunity to use those funds. What better way to use opioid settlement money than opiates?
Thinking about that, I know when that go, but I'm actually curious, the final number, the closest to the final number of those steps to kind of.
And with,
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Could the supervisor who supports this, bring back a resolution, or a summary of the request for this item we can see what it is, what the cost is.
That is the next step.
Yeah,
Yes, that is the next step. When they have this discussion tonight, and he's gonna follow up with the resolution that he's currently working on. That will hopefully, that's needed.
thank you.
Yes.
Could we hear the sheriff's report?
One, I can answer that, I believe. There's 39 with 4 pending. So. It would be 43. I'm sorry? I think so.
This is one of the reasons that I asked for 2019, 20, 21, and 22, the rate of increase is just a lot.
I apologize, this total of 39 to 4, so it's 35 to 4 pending, so total of 30. 35 and 4 pending for, it will be 39, it will be the 10.
Okay,
I wrote that down.
with that. Any other discussion item? Action will come.
Yes, this is the opportunity.
All right. So we're gonna close on our 12 on the agenda. Opening up item 13, which is sheriff's report.
Okay, building on the promotion that we did with Lieutenant Mike Seawall, we talked about our fraud investigations and internet crimes investigations. He is working on creating, we're gonna put together a 2 to 4 hour, hoping to keep it about 2 hours, fraud school, so you would be able to come in here. And I suggest that everybody goes through it. And we will walk you through how to lock down your credit, how to lock down your identity so that you are not faced with the identity theft issues that many people are. And we'll walk you through that. And when you walk out of here, you will have all of your credit reports frozen. You will walk out with your payday loans frozen, the ability for someone to put a payday loan in your name. There's a few other things that we'll be doing to teach people about. So that's forthcoming, should be within the next few months. Jail accounts, you should have gotten in 2022, the jail count end of year. So we had our average was 218. Of that, there were 20 he had sanctioned, average 20 he had sanctioned, and 4 other county that we were holding. Our total amount would be 194. Winnebago County, the next days count is 231. They have seen an uptick, and we grow this normal. After the holidays, judges will hold judgments of convictions until after the holidays, and then people will come sit their time in jail. So that's normal. Christmas Eve day, Christmas Day, we had significant issues on the Beautiful Bridge. With you all saw that it was much like the mega crash situation where it's clear, and then you get to a certain point of the bridge and it was just whiteout conditions. We had multiple crashes with multi-vehicle crashes. So no fatalities from Highway 41. We did have 1 fatality on New Year's Day, actually. So I'm not going to leave. I believe to be a factor in that issue. Last thing is, when I have talked to the chiefs of police, so Highway 41, 441, and 10 actually run through the jurisdictions of police departments. So we are looking at turning those jurisdictions over to people that actually own them. Will be the PDs. When the chairman of the board talked about why aren't you getting out to our more rural areas? Why aren't you getting out? Well, it's because of Highway 41 and the issues that are caused 41 and 441. So I've talked to the police chiefs, a lot of like Allegheny County, Brown County, Dane County, just off the top of my head, the PDs that those highways that they have and interstates that run through the jurisdictions are handled by those jurisdictions, such as Grand Chute, Appleton, etc. So
no, that interchange would be with the Fox
Yes.
Crossing and Molina.
yes,
The Appleton north of that.
Appleton does have a small portion from Winnebago County on 441.
It's possible.
Yeah,
So it's primarily Nina and Foxcroft.
Nina Fox Crossings, yep, and actually has some on 441 as well, very small amount. Oshkosh has a portion of 41. It's a little, we're gonna try to work through the jurisdictional maps aren't real clear for working with the GIS and what the actual, what is that for the city of Oshkosh. So we're meeting Wednesday. Then you guys can all 41. Not total. Now, we still would have, if you look at yours, like, I'll give you an example. We would take Quanqua Ave south. Quanqua Ave is the outland. Everything south of that is still the counties, would still be ours. Even though there are city properties that go all the way down to Highway 26, it's just how the highway itself is divided up with what is city, what is county. Except, no. Once you get to the 21 interchange, it goes back to county, we would still have the Viewmore Bridge. And we would still have everything north of there up until about Highway G Breezewood, and then it gets taken over by Nina. And then once you get above North Street, it is Fox Crossing that will handle it. Once you go on 441, there's a small part of it. And Fox Crossing, so we're about to do it. So, kind of like that. Yeah, it's how it is. So I talked to them about it. Previous sheriff, to me, Sheriff Brooks was going to do this. For some reason, he did not follow through. I'm still waiting to talk to him about why he didn't. But we are going to approach it. We'll look at like a team approach first, on how we handle it. And that doesn't mean that certainly we wouldn't take crashes if we're busy, much like we do now. If we work with each other.
Or we have state patrol that also assists.
That's true. They're aware of it as well.
Any update on the fatality that we asked months ago?
In the jail, I actually just asked the stops, and there is not. We are waiting for final toxicology. It could take some time. So I'm hoping to have it by the next meeting, so I can tell you exactly how they believe caused that.
Any other questions or comments?
Right, I have a question for you. The Oshkosh Northwestern on January 6th stated in their article on the day-by-day shelter operations to the fact that visitors said the county will continue to provide a patrol officer during the shelter's evening check-in process. Can you give us an update on the commitments to the shelter and any update that you're aware of for 5 minutes?
Sure. That's misinformation because we did not do that. I did receive a text from somebody who works with the county asking that we stop by on one of the days, and it was either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and we were slammed with practice. We still were able to free up a guy. He did go there. Just that one occasion was there about 15 minutes, and that was it. Oshkosh PD did provide officers from there's a 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. they were not there, but they were there the other times. So it was during that 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. that they asked us to stop by. We did not regularly have someone there.
Well, you're not committed going forward to,
I can give you a little update too.
District Attorney has something to.
Yeah. So Oshkosh PD was supplying an officer. It sounds like there is a plan that's going to be a contracted person that the services is helping out with. Provide a star security officer from 6 to 10 p.m. for the remainder of the winter. I don't know exactly how far that's going to go, and I haven't seen any formal language about that. But it sounds like there is a plan to have a security person, not a police officer necessarily. I don't know if there's a commitment from Oshkosh Police Department. I don't think they're going to be doing. They're not going to understand the level of commitment that they had during the operation of the emergency shelter. But there's going to be a contracted cyber security person for 4 hours per day.
Okay.
I can ask if there's some sort of like. It's on, even had a draft that had been circulated in Mary Ann knows more about that, but that's it.
Okay, we're going to close item 13 on the agenda. Item 14, which is public comments on non-agenda items, but within the jurisdiction. Any comments from those in the no? Any comments from Zoom? No. All right, I know it's late. But I just wanted to do 2 things really quick. That I forgot to mention earlier. This has happened to do with people meetings. We did ask from the executive table to be prepared for an update next JPS. Update on the 980 building project and an update on the board. So he's going to be bringing thank you. He's going to bring Mike Elder, and you're going to get an update on those 2 things next JPS. So make sure that you know. The other thing we want to have a conversation on next time is I want to talk about how or what approach, if any, we want to do on committee structure for the next term, as well as the self-organized questions. So I think those are good things that we should be discussing. So that will be a discussion item next time. Okay. No comments. We're going to close 14. The next meeting is Monday, February 6th. p.m. Here at this meeting place. And the deadline for agenda is Monday, January 23rd. With that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? I got it. Thank you.